and welcome to Better Than Mario Brothers, where each episode we plunge down a pipe into cinema's sewer. I am Chris Bolton. With me, as always, my partners in podcasting, Mr. Mark Williams.
Hello.
And Miss Helen McIntyre.
All right.
And oh boy, have we got a treat for you.
Wasn't a fucking treat for us.
So, well, since this show started, I feel like we've kind of had a bit of a niche. Like, we've either looked at the sort of high concept, low budget B movies, or we've been like the blockbusters that didn't hit the mark. And this one's neither of those. I think every now and again, something just breaks through. Something has such weighty cultural importance that it just crosses barriers and just demands people look at it. And so when we found out that the very first pornographic parody film had been unearthed and unleashed on the world, we just had to look at it. And so here we go with Bat Pussy.
Yeah, no, I can't remember where this one came from. I know we were looking at...
I know. Can I just get this out of the way now?
I want to know myself, because the fact that you two also didn't realise that it was actual porn.
I know exactly where it came from, but I've remained quiet because we decided we were doing it. I was just leisurely having a bowl of cereals one Saturday morning when I received a message from Mark that said, "Look at this I've found. We should do this." So I'm placing the blame very squarely at your feet.
This is all you. I can't remember the story behind it. I can't remember if I'd read something about it, because there's a story behind it which we'll go into in a second. I think it was that, because generally genre porn not my thing, especially like very old, very early, very unattractive porn. So yeah, it was one of those. I can't remember how I stumbled across it, but I remember seeing it, and I remember sending it to you. Oh my God, what's this? And in probably my naivety, assumed it was going to be some, early Channel 5 softcore, not actually see anything porn, which it kind of was, to be fair. But we'll come on to that later on.
Don't blame the camera operator's incompetence.
No, I'm blaming Coke Dick. I'm blaming Coke Dick entirely for that.
That is not Coke. Like,
no,
that is alcohol. Like, he'd be completely the other way if he was on Coke. Like,
I've got my own theories about him. Like, this is what I mean by this film I struggle to call it a film, but this experience really messed with my ADD, and there was like metatextual thoughts that have gone on, and there's a whole alternate universe where James Franco has made the Hollywood remake.
I mean, I didn't go to that level, but I think I'm sort of there with you as well, because this film took me on a journey. I'll be honest. Like, I went on a journey with this film more than anything we've done, I think, in the history of this podcast. Like, I'm still undecided as to whether it's actually genuinely a work of art or not. And I mean that, because by the end of this film, I was completely moved. And I mean moved in, like, I've got my film academic head on when I say this, okay? I don't mean moved in kind of the colloquial sense where I'm feeling a bit sad. I mean, like, I started out in one place and I ended somewhere completely different. And I ended in a worse place than I started, believe me. But I went on a journey to get there. When this started, I was a little bit like, "Oh, go on, champs." Do you know what I mean? It was a little bit like, "Oh, here's some guys who've got a camera and they've rounded their mates up." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, go on. Good on you." And then by about the 5-minute mark, I was just like, "No, this is repulsive." And then by the time we got to the end of it, I'm thinking, like, not only is it repulsive, it's also exploitative, vulgar, in bad taste, offensive. Like, it everything was wrong. And so I can't decide if that is all entirely accidental because everybody was just completely out of their fucking nut and didn't know what they were doing, or whether it was actually
obvious.
Well, they are, but it's whether it's intentional. It's whether, like, they're all clearly drunk, right? There's no doubt about that. But it's whether this has actually been crafted. Then it's whether there was an element of direction and an element of planning in this, and they actually wanted to go for what they've got, which is the most hateful, disgusting, low rent, bargain basement porn film you've ever seen. And if that's what they were going for, then mission fucking accomplished. And hats off to you, because you made me feel things. If you crafted that, then fair fucking play. If, however, this was just two blokes who found a couple of fucking winos behind a dumpster and paid them a $5 to get their kit off on camera, which is what I suspect is the case, then actually I'm pretty repulsed. So I can't decide. I really don't know. But either way, it moved me. And at various points throughout the film, I kind of swung back and forth. And I was starting, like you, Helen, I was starting to sort of peel back the curtain a little bit and start thinking, like, who are these people? What are their lives like? How did they end up here? Who's that guy that just farted off camera?
Yeah.
I caught that, and I was a bit like, oh, did I just hear somebody fart?
No, you really did.
And then it happened again about 2 minutes later. I was like, and you can see the ginger woman, I hope the character's name was Sam. You could just see her cracking up.
Yeah,
I
Sam and Buddy.
I don't think her name. I don't think her character name was actually Sam, because I think
there was Sam, Buddy, and Dora Dildo.
Yeah, I think Sam and Buddy are probably those people's actual names.
Probably.
Yeah,
It's
I'm convinced it's her actual
character
name,
names.
because that was the direction she was getting. And so when they started to call in the direction, she was the only one that had a name. But it was clearly happening earlier on. And for some reason, they chose to cut that out. And I don't know if this was like 70s, sexism in action, because, it was the guy that was getting directions quite clearly, because he's looking directly at the guy that's giving him the directions from behind the camera.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, that guy needed some serious direction. I mean, I don't know if anybody else noticed this. And you're right, Mark. There is a story that I think we need to get into. And obviously we need to... we need to go through our notes as well. As I say, mine, as I said just off air before we started, mine are more stream of conscious on this anyway, because there's no story as such to talk about.
Well, this is the thing. There's supposed to be.
Oh, there is clearly supposed to be. But again, this is a point where I come at this from a standpoint of, were they actually trying something here? Because actually, as an exercise in improv, I kind of feel like you can trace it through. There are points where all of a sudden they go from just hating each other to her saying to him, like, oh, you're always fucking your secretary and you wouldn't do that if we had kids. And then him suddenly saying, well, you must have squeezed kids out of that because it's like a bucket. And then her going, yeah, well, we've got 2 kids. And it's like this story just starts to grow.
But you've got that. There's a lot of that between those 2 characters. But you also get, they tried to tack on this whole thing with Bat Pussy, with Dora Dildo, whereby it's like, oh, well, somebody's shooting porn in my town. And they did. I know her vagina sense was tingling, and it's like, well, okay, they've clearly tried to do that. So then, when you get into the sex scenes with Sam and Buddy, is that supposed to be on a set? Because you can see it clearly is a set. Is that intentional? Are they trying to go for this sort of head fuck meta thing, which just doesn't come off?
Maybe. I don't think so though, because I think
no,
actually,
I don't need it. I'm giving it far too much credit.
Yeah. No, and I think you can still trace that story through, in as much as she says something like, I don't know, my twat is tickling or something like that. The line is, isn't it? Or twat, because it's American. Yeah. By the way, American listeners, like, this is the one and only time I'm going to give you a pass and use that term. Learn to say twat correctly, because it really fucking annoys me. Okay. Yeah. And it's wrong. It is a twat.
Because I wanted to call this space hopper the Twatmobile.
Yeah. And we can't do it because you say twat wrong. So learn how to swear properly. All right. We'll give you a pass on everything else, but please learn how to swear properly. Where was I going with this before I got sidetracked? Oh yeah, she says like my twat is tingling or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And she says, oh, this dirty fucker's fucking in my Gotham City, which is one of my favorite lines that's ever been uttered in a film ever. And I've written it down. Yeah, in my holy
Gotham City.
Dirty motherfuckers fucking in my holy Gotham City or whatever. And it's at that point then that Buddy picks the camera up and starts talking about how they can do things like what's in the magazine. They throw this out the window almost immediately, but there is at least intent that Buddy and Sam are actually going to make a low-rent porno, because he goes from being like, oh, well, you're a prostitute anyway, and you're sucking people off out the back alley when I'm in work, to actually, we can make some money out of this.
But the other thing, though, because as I said, I actually took fucking timestamps. 52 minutes is the total. Work. I don't. It was just like, I couldn't get over what I was watching. On a Sunday.
I'm guessing I'm off the recommendation list for a while.
I mean, you've cashed all your fucking chips in for a good while here, mate. I'll be honest.
I mean, my usual stance remains true. This would have been much better with Jason Statham.
Would be better with a lens cap on as well. Let's be fair.
Well, yeah, there's a lot that could make it better. But this whole thing about the setup is they're going to start shooting a porn. Like, Bat Pussy utters that line about.
It's a good 10 minutes before we even see Bat Pussy.
It's about the 12-minute mark that she gives you that line. But they don't actually pick the camera up to start shooting.
No, it's much later.
Porno. Yeah. 21 minutes later. It's the 21-minute mark. So you're just about halfway through before they pick it up. And what you've had until that, like, this is such a mistitled film. They should have just called it Domestic Disturbance, because Sam and Buddy,
the movie.
Yes, they are that. Like, everyone knows that couple that you go out to the pub and they have one drink and it starts with the little needling comments and it escalates to you're sat at the table thinking, Jesus fucking Christ, I want to be anywhere other than this because this is so uncomfortable right now. I am got far too much of an insight into your marriage and I don't want to know.
Regular listeners will know I used to live next to a couple just like this in university. I've talked about them on this podcast before. The couple that live next to me right now aren't a million miles away from it either, but we do all know these couples. And
if you don't know them, it's you.
Yes. and even to look at them as well, you know, there's something about looking at Sam and Buddy where, like, yes, they're not attractive in a conventional sense at all. I don't think they're necessarily unattractive, to be fair. They're just average looking people.
I think this was my biggest problem with it as porn. It's my biggest problem with it is that what's the point in attainable actors? If it's somebody I could fuck on a Saturday night after a couple of pints anyway.
Again, when it first started,
the whole fantasy thing, it goes out the window.
Yeah, no, I get that. But when it first started, again, there was a little bit of me that was just like, oh, yeah, go on. This is a bit like watching, you know, your school caretaker and a dinner lady fucking. That's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah, they were both
what they look like as well.
I was just serving in my school.
I mean, that's what they look like as well. They're normal looking people, right? They look like normal, late middle-aged people. Like,
the dinner lady comment is accurate.
Yeah, she looks like a dinner lady, doesn't she?
Yeah. But I mean, it amused me because I mean, you get the whole thing. It starts off with him reading the fucking porn paper. Was it called Screw or something like that?
Screw. It's a magazine, apparently, even though it looks like a broadsheet. Because they don't have the money to do glossy printing, clearly.
But apparently that was a real magazine.
Really?
Yeah, apparently so.
Bear in mind your signs are hand-drawn, so they're not exactly going to print off the magazine and leave Bat Pussy's headquarters.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. Also, at this point, well, just off topic again, because the notes are all fucking over the place anyway. If we're talking about production values, like, I get that you've hand-drawn the Bat Pussy sign, all right? And, like, you've got an actual issue of Screw then. Because this is a porno, right? So you're not going to care about the Bat Pussy sign. But surely there needs to be some element of production design around the bedroom itself if it's a porno. Like, for a start, iron the fucking sheets. For fuck's sake. Those sheets are disgusting.
Look, they certainly were by the end.
If you're gonna set it in like a seedy motel or something, then fair enough. You can understand it. If, you know, the sheets would be crusty, you'd be able to stand them up. But that's not the intent, is it? It's their bedroom.
That's their bedroom.
But this might be Sam being actually the biggest, most Stanislavskian trained professional actor that you've ever encountered, because her whole opening thing was, I've been sat here in bed waiting for you to fuck me, why don't you come over here and fuck me, right at the very beginning. Maybe this was her trying to set the scene and imply that she's been in there for a significant period of time. We already know, spoiler warning for anybody thinking of watching the film, that she is more than capable of pleasuring herself, because fucking hell knows, not surprised she's got
also that he is. Because I don't think he got erect at any point during this process, did he?
No.
And it got to the point about halfway through where I started paying real attention to that. Because, you know, for the first 10 minutes or so, you're just like, he's really bad at foreplay, isn't he? But he's giving it a go. Like, he's taking 10 minutes or so to get the engine revved up. You know, he's doing all right. And then you realize he's only doing all of this foreplay because he can't fucking get it up. Like, he is so shit-faced. He barely gets past semi-flaccid in this entire film. And even when Bat Pussy comes in.
Yeah, full credit to Sam. Like, the first time she goes down on him, she approaches it like Matt Stoney at a hot dog eating competition. That was all I could think of.
Yeah, like, she's going for it, whereas he's off his fucking nut. Like, he is just so drunk. It's unbelievable. Okay, let's dive into it a bit then. You're right, Mark. There is a story which we should probably give everybody to set the scene, I guess.
Yeah. So I've got it here. I've got the wiki page open because the story varies slightly depending on where you read it. So we
I love that. It just, the legend grows.
Yeah, I mean,
love
so
it.
we watched this. Is it Arrow Video? We watched it on.
We watched it on Arrow, yeah.
So Arrow did free 7-day trial or a month trial, whatever it is. So free trial on there. Everything's available. They've got loads of really good stuff as well.
Yeah,
really
shout
good
out to
archive on
those
there.
guys. Yeah, and like they're not paying us or anything like that because why
No,
would
no,
anyone
absolutely
pay
not.
for this shit? But yeah, if anybody's listening and you like our nonsense and you like the kind of stuff that we're watching on this show, Arrow Video on Demand is an absolute must. I think we've signed up for the free trial. It's like $4.99 a month, but the library is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's really it's a
Yeah.
really impressive archive. So yeah, check that out. But yeah, so on there it's slightly different on the wiki page. Obviously, the wiki page can be edited, so you've got to kind of take it with a bucket of sand. But yeah, allegedly, it's believed to be one of the earliest, if not the first, porn parody film shot in about 1969, 1970. Nobody's quite sure. The date on Screw magazine suggests it was 1970. But apparently this, it wasn't widely released. Nobody knows who made it. There are no credits attached to it. There's no information about it whatsoever because nobody wants to take any sort of credit or blame, presumably. But it was thought to be lost, and then a copy was found. There was an adult movie theater in Tennessee, in Memphis, being demolished, and somebody found a crate full of old 8mm and 16mm tapes, and there was a 600 meter reel in a can called Bat Pussy. So the guy took it away. He asked the site if he could take them. They were like, yeah, fine, do what you like. Took them away and then sold them to Something Weird, the distribution company, who paid $1,000 for it. And then they've restored it they restored it to 2K and they released it in 2016. Had a Blu-ray release. It's achieved something of a cult following. And it's widely regarded as the least erotic, unsexist film ever made.
I mean, it's absolutely it is about as erotic as a ham sandwich on a wet afternoon. It's absolutely, and not even a good ham sandwich. It's like a fucking Tesco ham sandwich. It's awful.
I mean, they say that pornography is meant to give people unrealistic expectations about sex. If Bat Pussy was the only porn that they'd watch, they'd be a fucking virgin their entire life.
Well, I'm not being funny. You kind of be afraid to not be, because I'm fairly sure that she should have broken her neck about 4 times.
Oh God, yeah. It's a case of you go into Bat Pussy and you think, oh well. To be fair, like there've been a couple of times where like people were drunk and stuff, where I've possibly had some bad sex, and you watch it and you're just like, no, my sex life has been fucking amazing. I have never fallen off a bed and been kneed in the head.
Yeah, it's when they stop the entire production as well, because he does that and then starts laughing. Like he falls off the bed, knees her in the head, and then just kills himself laughing. Now, we're jumping forward here, but I'm pretty sure it's just after that as well, then, that the film comes to a complete and utter, unexplained, abrupt stop.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think one of 2 things has happened here. Okay, either they've run out of film, or she has genuinely had enough and just gone, no, fuck this. Because she just gets dressed and fucks off.
Gets dressed and goes. I think that's it. I think she's just going, you know what? I'm done. I'm out.
And in fairness, and don't get me wrong, there is no real barometer here, but in fairness, she's clearly a much better actress than both of the others, and is possibly a professional.
Either that or a far bigger whore.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the two. But she seems to know what she's doing. Like, don't get me wrong, she's not fucking Oscar material or anything, but she's able to at least remember and read her lines.
Yep.
And at least she makes some fucking noise when they're supposed to be fucking, because the other two just corpse.
Well, yeah.
But Sam was the one that remembered that it was not Batwoman, but it was Bat Pussy.
Well, there's that as well. Like, he calls her Bat Pussy once, because after that he just starts calling her Batwoman to the point where she corrects him.
Yeah, and it's really funny because you get that whole setup, but even before you get to the ridiculousness of it, all of their interactions they start off by hating each other and insulting each other and repeating themselves because they can't remember their fucking lines and they don't really have any direction. They don't have anything to work with. So they just go on about, well, you've been fucking this one, and no, you can't fuck this. You can't do this anyway. Okay, fine. So we get that for about 10 minutes. And then I think
you'll find the repeated line is, you don't know how to fuck. You don't know how to fuck. Like, if there was a bad pussy drinking game and you took a shot every time one of them told the other you don't know how to fuck.
By the intro.
Yeah.
But within the first 2 minutes, you'd be shit-faced. You'd be drunker than them.
You'd be absolutely wankered by the end of the intro.
But
Yeah.
also,
And
never
by the
a
end of the
truer
trailer,
line.
let's be fair.
Yeah, never a truer line has been spoken
Very
in the
true.
history of film. Because I have seen people struggle less with
factually
IKEA
correct.
furniture that we have lost the instructions for.
It is factually correct. You're right.
So we get that. So we get about 10 minutes of that. So I thought that was painful because that's just drawn out. You're thinking, fuck, no. If something's going to happen, let's get on with it. Because at this point, we've got 10 minutes of them insulting each other in these really annoying accents. And it's just really fucking annoying. So then you cut over to the headquarters. And she decides that, no, my vagina sense is tingling. Whips her dress off and then gets dressed about as quick as my fucking 7-year-old.
Yeah, I mean,
Also,
in fairness, she is wearing a 7-year-old's Batman pajamas. So,
But it's just like, oh my, how long does it take you to pull on a pair of tights and a shirt and a mask? It shouldn't take you 4 hours.
I mean,
but
look,
apparently it does.
she's a professional porn star. She's not used to getting dressed. She's used to getting undressed. Give the girl a break.
She struggled remembering how to actually put clothes on because, Jesus Christ, that got a comment.
That was painful. I mean, the whole thing where and it's like, oh, which leg goes in which hole of these trousers? Oh, fuck me, really? Where's the L and what's hang on, which one's which?
I actually wondered at this point, and there are a few points throughout watching this film where I think you mentioned it in chat a few days ago, Helen. I said, no, we've got to cut this on the head because we've got to keep it for the podcast. But there were several points during this where I was writing stuff down and I was like, am I kink shaming here? Because I'm really trying to avoid that, okay? Because you do you, all right? If you like this stuff, then you do you. But I was watching this and thinking, like, I mean, I don't know. People are into everything. Like, is there someone out there that just likes watching women get dressed as opposed to undressed? Is that
surely?
And is it the director? I don't know. I mean, people are into all sorts, dude. And like, providing it doesn't hurt anybody, then you do you. But yeah, I did wonder at several points where, like, you know, I mean, I'm convinced there are people that are into the hate fucking of it all. Like, I'm sure there are people out there that do actually find this really erotic. I mean, surely the directors must have gone, well, this is what we're going to do. You two fucking hate each other. So just, I mean, he's clearly like, this is the director working his issues out on film. If this is real, like, either way, whether this is real or not, this is him clearly going like, I fucking hate my life and I hate my marriage and we're going to work it out right here and now. Like, that's clearly what this is.
I have a genuine question, which is if, I'll call him Buddy, but like, I never caught that name during the watching of this.
I'm pretty sure it's Buddy. I'm doing
Buddy.
it from memory.
If you look on the wiki page, there's a poster with Buddy, Sam, and Dora Dildo on it.
Well,
like, actually, the character names are written in case you can't remember them.
Well, I don't think it was actually mentioned in the watching of it because I didn't read any of this stuff. Yeah, but it was that and his fascination and his obsession with anal that made me think that possibly the casting of this should have been slightly shifted and maybe more of a sort of a Superman type thing, because I just was like, maybe this is what's giving him the performance anxiety and issues that we're suffering. Because I mean, 8 minutes in and I've written a paragraph of notes which is basically just like, dude, sometimes you just need to call it and just walk away. Just say, you know what, this just isn't happening.
Leave it. I mean, the thing with that is when he does eventually convince her to give anal a go, again, doesn't know what he's doing.
No.
Well, no, he's only saying it for the sake of saying it, because have you seen how floppy he is at the time?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that any anal was going to be happening.
Like, when he actually tries to position her for that is one of the most uncomfortable 2 minutes I've ever witnessed on film. I felt bad for both of them because
but like, you get the whole.
I don't think he even knows where the hole is.
Sorry, I'm just watching Helen. Yeah, the whole thing with that, you get this whole thing. He starts off with the magazine, with the newspaper, and he's talking about, oh, we could do this, we could try that. It's like he's never realised there's anything other than missionary before, and he's never realised that actually penises are supposed to be hard. It's like a whole new world for him.
Bear in mind, this is a man that does suggest at about the 40-minute mark that I can't even say it with a straight face, that he fucks her in the nose. That is a genuine suggestion that comes in.
Well, this is the thing I was wondering, is she a bit like Danielle Westbrook and the fucking septum's gone?
Deviated septum, so he can just go straight up there.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Why not?
Counter your theory though, Mark, that this is him branching out from missionary, because ice cream rules apply to sex with everything, which is if you fuck up vanilla, you don't get chocolate.
That analogy works so well in this case.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, it's a rule for life.
Yeah, it is. Let's just steer clear of strawberry. Sorry, it's one of those nights.
It was always going to be. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, let's try and go through it a little bit. As you said, Mike, there is this story, and again, I messaged you guys as soon as I'd watched it, and my initial thought was like, is somebody taking the piss? Like, is this actually a real thing? Or, you know, because this story is almost too good to be true, isn't it? It's so well fabricated that you're just like, hang on, is somebody just going for it here and trying to replicate like really dodgy 70s porn? And they've created, you know, they've Blair Witched it, they've given it this whole backstory, and they've just made the worst film possible. And somewhere there are like 4 or 5 people just absolutely pissing themselves at the fact that this has been so discussed by film academics, and now we're doing a podcast on it and stuff like that. But then the more you read about it and the more you see how much coverage it's had from actual film academics and actual historians.
And not only that, then you get it's part of like the American genre film archive.
Yeah, like they'd have blown the whistle by now because they'd have cashed this shit in, wouldn't they? So
or they'd have conveniently found another one.
Yeah. Well,
but I mean,
apparently there is a missing reel that's been found recently, isn't there? There is
sure.
There's a sequel.
Yeah, no, and there's no sequel. There is extra footage.
It's part of this film.
Yeah, there is extra footage, which I think belongs at the end of the movie. So it might explain what happens after she fucks off. I mean, presumably she gets back on a space hopper and goes for another piss somewhere.
So,
I don't know.
Conveniently, on Valentine's Day 2019, the American Genre Film Archive announced something weird. Lisa Petrelli had located a second 16mm copy, including footage missing from the ending of the previous footage. So it is the end.
Yeah. There you go. So maybe she didn't just get up and storm off, but I'm still pretty sure she fucking did, because she looked pretty fucking pissed when she gets up and gets stressed.
I'd imagine there's
I've had enough.
There's like a whole 7 Shades of Concussion thing going on as well, where he's kneed her in the head, he's dropped her on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, they basically have a fucking wrestling match, though. Like, it's...
Oh, don't forget that Sam has tried unsuccessfully to use the strap-on at that stage.
Yeah, what is that about? Why does she just start sucking off a strap-on? Like, does she not understand what the purpose of the strap-on is? Like, they're having the world's worst threesome. Like, he's going down on Bat Pussy, and they're having a great time. And so then Sam just gets out the strap-on and decides she's going to suck it off. Like, who's getting pleasure out of that? What's that about?
Pass.
Weird. So weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there is part of me that thinks, you know, maybe this was all planned, but it definitely wasn't, was it? Like,
I don't know. I mean, I hadn't thought
that story is just so good.
I hadn't considered it until you mentioned it, and I tend to agree actually that I think it's too good to be true.
Yeah,
but at the same time, somebody would have debunked it by now.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? I mean, if it is too good to be true, and if they have literally pulled the wool over the eyes of film academics everywhere, then hats off to them. I kind of love them for that. And if it comes out in future that this was all a hoax, then I think it will instantly be elevated to one of my favorite films of all time. Like, because it is so successful if it is. But I think we have to meet it at its own level at the moment and assume that it is real.
Yeah.
And actually, I think, you know, already we've kicked the shit out of it, and it's so easy to do, but I feel like we've kind of got to judge this differently. You know, we can't apply our normal rules to this. We can't look at the narrative. We can't look at the light. I mean, for fuck's sake, within 2 minutes, the boom is dropping in shot. Like, we can't.
Was it that long?
Look, yeah. And that's the other thing. Like, if you're faking it, things like that are just so perfect, aren't they?
Yes.
Like, the fact that the boom drops in straight away is like, oh, come on, that's such a cliche.
Yeah.
Like,
and
you know,
like again, if you were faking it, you'd be doing things like leaving a lamp on and then turning it off, and in between takes and things like that.
Or, you know, stopping takes to give direction, and, you know.
But then they edit out the direction at the beginning.
Yes, they do.
And leave it in later on. So that's you would think that if it was a fake, that's the one thing that I think says it's not a fake, is it's not consistent.
Well,
and I think if it was fake, it would be consistent.
When they're talking, when they're abusing each other and all the rest of it, it's easy to cut around because there are natural breaks in the dialogue. Whereas when there's movement going on, I'm not going to call it action or anything else because it's just movement. It's a lot. Obviously, they're not going to disengage to take direction. so it's harder to then edit it out because they end up having to cut out or trying to match on action particular frames, and that was never going to work, especially shooting on 16mm in the 60s or early 70s.
Well, I mean, they barely move the camera. It's something I comment on later on.
Yeah.
It's like later on when Bat Pussy shows up again,
they do start
to move in for close-ups.
Well, I think the thing of it as well, if you look at it, and if you look at it from start to finish, it does begin, everything's locked off, nothing moves, the camera is entirely static, nothing moves, and then as they get more comfortable and as they start doing more, it's almost like they get a bit more adventurous with the camera work as well. And go, oh, hang on, we can get in a bit closer, we can move this. And actually to a point where they zoom in on Sam, and then when they zoom out, they go slightly too far and you see the edge of the set. So you just see on the floor, like the carpet stops.
Again, it's those things that just seem,
those touches.
They just seem so perfect, you know. But then you look at like Buddy and Sam, and you just think like, there's no way they're faking this. They're too bad. Like, acting bad is one of the hardest things to do, and there's no way that anybody can pull it off this successfully. Like, they are definitely original. Like, somebody's just brought them in and gone, right, there's no script, you two you're having hate sex, just go for it. And they fed them a shitload of beer and just gone, right, go for it, go for each other. Because I mean, the two of them as well, like they haven't actually bothered screen testing these guys or anything. Like, they've got all the fucking chemistry of one of those £10 sets you got for Christmas when you were a kid from Argos. Do you know what I mean? There is no chemistry between these two whatsoever.
It's like when they start, actually, well, when he starts fingering her, she's so disengaged. It's like, is he actually touching her? Because she doesn't seem to have noticed.
Well, there is. I mean, this is a thing, right? It's a porno, and I knew we were watching a porno, right? And I'm watching it in the middle of the afternoon on a Friday through my fucking 5.1 setup as well. So I'm like, right, this is like, the neighbors are going to wonder what I'm doing here. So when it started, I turned it down really quietly because I was like, I don't want them all hearing groaning. They're going to think I'm fucking beating it off on Friday afternoon, right? So I'm going to turn it down. But then I just turned it back up after about 5 minutes because there's no energy. Like, she doesn't groan once, I don't think, throughout the whole film. No. It's not until Bat Pussy shows up that anybody makes any pleasurable sounds whatsoever. Yeah. They're telling each other how much they fucking hate each other. He's jackhammering away with his flaccid cock, obviously not good, just basically slapping up against her thigh, and you don't even hear that.
I was going to say, I made this comment on the chat as well, is that when she turns up and he starts fucking her, you can actually see that there's not even any attempt at penetration. He's just hanging around with his nuts. It's like he's got 3 bollocks.
Yeah, I mean, he can't do anything because he's so fucking flaccid.
But I mean, I did the same thing as you, and we discussed this on Saturday. Is that I watched it. I figured it'd be somewhat less seedy to watch it during the day. So when the God-fearing folk were in church on Sunday morning, that's when I watched it, and then I contemplated going to church for the first time, like, ever, as like needing to atone for something, and instead I showered in bleach for like an hour.
Well, you know, I
still don't feel clean.
The library on Arrow is phenomenal, so I followed it up with a Hellraiser marathon, and somehow all of them were less seedy than this, and that's fucking saying something. All right.
It's still not the worst thing that I've had to watch, so I was like,
Jesus Christ.
Fine.
Well, I watched Uncharted on Saturday, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is now the second worst porn film I've ever seen, I think. No, this is the worst. This is the worst.
What's the contender?
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which
okay.
is exactly what it sounds like.
Is that the one where they just get her baked and start singing hi ho?
No. It is literally a gangbang with a full-size woman and 7 dwarves, and then at the end they managed to shrink her down and bring oh yeah but it's better shot than this. They're all enjoying themselves, at least, and kind of funny.
It wins points on concept.
I mean, don't get me wrong, this was funny. Like, I haven't laughed this much.
I think the problem is it's unintentionally funny, isn't it? I think if we take it on face value, if we take it as it could actually be fake, then you have to assume that they've done it entirely intentionally. But if you take it on face value, this was hilarious for all the wrong reasons. To the point where, as you pointed out, that it's down on Arrow as romance/comedy.
Which, I mean, there's no romance in there, but it's definitely a fucking comedy. I mean, there were points where I did, like, I've got whole sections where I wasn't able to take notes because I was literally crying with laughter.
Yeah.
I just couldn't write. And there was no way I wanted to stop it because I just didn't want to prolong this experience. So there are points where I haven't got any notes at all. But yeah, like as we said, when it starts, it just seems to come out of nowhere. Like there's no titles, there's nothing. These two are just straight into it, and we're left with them improvising. And yeah,
well, you do kind of have this very slight intro where she's on the bed and he's standing up. They're both naked, and he's standing there with this newspaper. And oh my god, look at that! Oh my god, look at that! And he turns and he shows. So they do sort of make an effort at introducing what's going on, and then they kind of forget about that and go, yeah, no, I'm bored of that.
Yeah, I mean, for those first 10 minutes, I was just beside myself. Honestly, I was like, what am I watching? I don't understand what this is. And then I started picking up all the little details. Like I started to study his tattoo really intently because I was like, is that a dog shaped like a penis?
No, it's an Arkansas Razorback.
But it kind of looks like a little dick dog, right? So I was looking for ages, being like, has he got a tattoo of a dick dog on his ass? No, he hasn't, as you've just cleared up. So there's things like that. Then there's like the random fart or burp or whatever it is that happens off camera whilst she's sucking him off. I did have to rewind it at that point because I was like, right, either he's so drunk and relaxed that he's literally just farted on it, or somebody off camera has got really bad flatulence. And I've come to the conclusion it's somebody off camera. I don't think it's him.
Yeah,
it's off camera.
Yeah. So, all of these things, like it would be the most horrendous 10 minutes of my life, other than I've just got all this stuff to look for. And it's just making me absolutely kill myself laughing. And then just when you think it can't get any more ridiculous, and you've almost forgotten that this is about bat pussy, because these two fucking knuckleheads have been going it for so long. Like we cut into the fucking bat pussy lair, whatever it is, which is literally someone's front room. It's just a couch with a fucking crayon drawn sign.
Yeah, and then because when they cut to outside it, it's like a portaloo, isn't it?
Yeah, and they introduce her as Dora Dildo, and the film is instantly 100% better just for the gag, just for Dora Dildo. Right?
Well, this is the bit that I found quite funny, also quite frustrating, is that the funniest bits of the film are in the trailer. Yeah. But my favorite bit, obviously, you've got the headquarters, and you've got the hand drawn sign, all the rest of it, and then you've got the space hopper, but the same as with the getting dressed, they make so much of that. Like they literally have her hopping across the entire screen, like the entire shot, before they cut away, and then she pulls up to the stop sign and she waits, which is hilarious.
Except it was in the hilarious. The comic timing on display with that, like that gets
it's brilliant. And then you get the bit
that's really.
Yeah,
it is. And then you get the bit where she, it's taking ages. Oh, for God's sake, cut away already. And then she stops and goes for a piss in the bush, and then goes back to it and starts again. And then she's going through the park, and then she spots the woman being attacked, so she goes over and beats him up with a space hopper, and then casually just hops off again. And the noise that space hopper makes.
I was going to say it's hilarious. The noise, though, isn't it? It's the noise.
It makes it completely.
There's something about that whole section that just gets like it feels like a fucking late 60s, early 70s music video where all of the band are on drugs all of a sudden, and we're just here's the most random shit.
If you were making a genre spoof as opposed to a porn spoof, you could do that, and that would be hilarious. And that would set a really decent barometer of where you were with your product and what the tone you were trying to set, the level of humor you were trying to go for, and that would all work, and that would all be fine. The problem is it's not in keeping with what they're actually doing. And because of that, and because the director's not heard of editing, they don't cut away. So you just literally have, it takes 4 hours to get from that point to that point, and another 16 minutes to get from there to there. And then, she's gone for a piss, so we'll do that in real time as well. And you have the point, you can cut away.
Oh, but this ties back into Sam and Buddy. I think the reason why that was so long is because the first time Sam and Buddy bring up their marriage, they've been married for 9 years, but at the 13 minute mark, it's 11 years. So this domestic's been going for 2 years.
But not only that's how long it's taken her to get across Holy Gotham City.
It's like I said, there are moments in this where you are genuinely just seeing live improv at work, and you are seeing, like, they're not good actors, don't get me wrong, but you are seeing these two hand off to each other, and you can almost hear the cogs turning, where they're just like, okay, I'll take that, and what next, and what, and you can hear it. You get it with marriage like that. You get it with the kids later on.
I was
and
going to say you get it with the comment about her about shooting out kids and being like a bucket. You do get that. You do get the impression it's like, oh well, and what she just fed me? Oh shit, I'm drunk. I can't remember. And it's like they're trying, but then when they can't remember,
they're contradicting each other.
You can't fuck worth a damn. So well, no, because I'm drunk and impotent apparently. And it's just like they forget and resort back to that. But there are some actual quite genius moments where it does move through. It does work quite well in terms of that back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, they're not good at it, but you can trace that through, and there's something that's actually quite fun about that. Just watching these two just build this narrative in front of you, because it's not coming from the director; it's coming from those two. Yeah. Just having fun.
Same as I just said with Bat Pussy and sort of the timing and sort of the way that sequence worked out. Now when she's traveling, if you were to have that as part of something else as opposed to having it part of porn, same as if you had these two having a domestic but not naked, and between bursts of oral where neither of them actually seem to have ever seen genitalia before. It's like you think, well, there's something in that. You could have this. You could build on this relationship. You could do something about it, and actually have these people fundamentally hate each other, but don't know how to be apart.
Yeah,
a bit like fucking Marriage Story, which was far more successful, and far better. But there are legs in that. There's mileage in that in terms of telling a story. The problem is they just went, we've got a camcorder and $50, and I want to watch people fuck. Let's make a porno.
It's literally that, and it feels like they have just gone out on like a Saturday night to their nearest bar, found the two drunkest people in there. Because that's the other thing, is like I mentioned, I joked about them looking like the caretaker and the dinner lady, right? But they do actually look, bearing in mind this is the late 60s, early 70s as well, and they're middle-aged, right? Yeah. So they're going to have been brought up in the 50s. They do look like they've glammed up for a night out. Like if you just imagine
exactly the most rigid thing in the entire film.
Same with him. He's got the big fucking bouffant quiff going on. They've been out for a night out, right? So
it's literally like, no, we'll pay for your dinner, but come and make a movie with us.
Yeah, it's literally like they've just filled them full of alcohol and drugs and just gone like, right, come back and fuck each other. And then the two of them have got there. Probably Buddy realized he can't do jack. So they're like, right, how do we improvise with this? And then my favorite point of this whole improvisation process, whilst we're talking about it, actually, we're talking about how they contradict each other. I forget what it is he's saying to her, but there's one point where he asks her a direct question and then sticks his cock in her mouth. And she spits it out and says, how the hell am I supposed to answer with your dick in my mouth? And that is phenomenal improv work. Like
it is.
Like, it's literally just her telling the truth, but it's so funny. Like the two of them, they didn't plan it, but the comic timing on it is incredible.
I fully believe in the reality of the dysfunctional marriage between these two. Like, I can completely buy that.
I would completely buy that they're actually married in real life and fucking hate each other. Like, there's definitely, because there's such a vacuum of chemistry. There is nothing between them. They've got no spark, nothing to say to each other. As you say, they just fall back on this kind of safety phrase all the time. You don't know how to fuck. No, you don't know how to fuck. And that's all it is. Like,
you kind of get the impression, because, and again, like, for every exaggeration, there's always a grain of truth in there. So you get the whole bit about kids, and he's like, well, we got 2 kids, and you get the impression that it's like, this is an actual married couple who are at that stage where their kids are older, possibly have moved out, have moved on and going on with their lives, and these two just don't know what to do with each other anymore. It's just they just have grown apart, and then because they're not raising children anymore. It's right, what the fuck do we do now? Who are we? And you kind of get that's where they are in life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's again, there's that whole element of she keeps saying to him, you keep fucking the secretary, and he keeps saying to her, oh, well, you keep blowing guys in the back alley and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's like they've kind of almost built this weird fantasy narrative, or maybe it's not even a fantasy narrative. Maybe this is literally 2 people airing their dirty laundry. We'll never really know. But it's just the genius that comes out of that as well. Or your pussy's like a wash tub and things like that, which is just...
Yeah, it's
Like-
it's the weirdest dirty talk I'd heard in a while.
It's fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
It's almost Lynchian, this film. There are points where you're almost just like, this is so fucking surreal. Like, none of this dialogue makes any sense. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I still don't really understand what happens. You know, we know Bat Pussy's going to like fight them because they're making dirty movies in her holy Gotham City, but she doesn't even make any attempt to fight them. As soon as she shows up, she just fucks them. Like,
And it's not even a dirty movie.
no.
Because
No,
it's a
just taking
Polaroid
pictures for a
camera that he
magazine.
picks up, and he then runs around the bed saying "click."
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah, he does. Yeah, doesn't he? He's just
That-
making
that was-
camera
yeah.
sound. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
he does.
it's the whole thing of kids running and going pew 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 pew. It was I'd forgotten about that. It was that made me. I was drinking and that did make me spit take. That was brilliant.
I mean, the bit that really baffles me about this is because it's a parody as well. And I know this is the first one, and maybe they could only afford the Batman pajamas and they couldn't afford actual costumes. I don't know. But if you're doing a spoof, if you're doing a Batman spoof, why don't you use the villains? Why isn't Bat Pussy fucking, you know, the Joker or Two-Face or whatever? And especially like when you've got, if you want to keep this setup even, right? If this is the director's kink of like, oh, well, I don't like these, you know, I don't like my wife. And so we're going to have this whole hate fuck thing going on. And these two want a divorce. Fine. Okay. Have them go to Two-Face for a divorce and then have Bat Pussy come in at that point. They can have a fight in the office. They can spill acid or something on his face. Or let's be honest, she's going to shoot acid from her family, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's going to burn one half of his face. You know, this,
yeah, should probably see a doctor about that.
Difficult,
that's like an extreme STD.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, he's given her this extreme STD, right? So she just clears it out in Two-Face's office. Yeah. You know, and again, you use the villains, like when you've just got Sam and Buddy and, you know, they make some effort with Dora Dildo, but you use the villains, then you can start getting the porn names in there as well, can't you? You know, you can have like Harvey Bent or whatever you want to call them. Do you know what I mean? You can get this stuff in there.
Yeah, and if you look at we talked about Zack and Miri make a porno, I think a year or so ago.
I thought about that a lot watching this.
So did I, and I'm thinking if you look at the effort they went to there, and obviously I know that it's scripted and it's set up, but the effort they made into setting up the faux porn, and you have the character names, you have you which you give a dirty bed, you have the costumes which you just make them slightly you make more sexualized versions of what's actually there. That's kind of what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And and this was just like, as you said, they went out, they had $50. It's like, right, we'll pay for their dinner and we need to buy some pajamas for her.
Yeah, the mistake we made was we were expecting them to have made an effort. That's the mistake we made.
See, I didn't make that mistake. I have to say that my expectations going in were not met, but definitely I wasn't surprised by what I was watching.
I was totally surprised. Like,
I know you were, because I read the messages. I read them out loud to everyone that I worked with.
I mean, I knew it was porn, and I was expecting porn. But, you know, the term porn parody, I was expecting something more along the lines of Shaving Ryan's Privates or Snow White and the Seven. Like, I was expecting some humor. I was expecting a narrative through line. I was expecting some actual fucking. What I got instead was two naked, old, overweight people swearing at each other for 50 minutes. Like, that's...
Yeah.
With the exception of naked, that's the show, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I was just about to say, I can say that as somebody who's now middle-aged himself. They're older than me, right? So these old people, like, these are in late middle age.
Yeah.
It's so fucking weird. I don't understand who this is for. I really don't understand who this is for, other than the very specific group of people that made it. It's almost like they made their own porn to watch themselves. Yeah. And that's weird in and of itself. When it's
not to kink shame anyone, but just that if the ugly domestic between married people about just how much you fucking hate each other and you hate your lives together, if that's what gets you going and that turns you on, fine.
You do your thing,
But you don't even get the sex. Is the point? That's all you get.
That's the thing. And I could understand
really
this.
Fetish.
Yeah, I could understand this if there was penetration and if he could get it up and like, look, this isn't my cup of tea and it's not something I particularly want to watch. But, you know, if he starts choking her out and stuff like that and he gets aggressive, I get it. Okay, I get how people can like that. What I don't get is two people sitting around for 50 minutes swearing at each other and telling each other they're ugly, and then, you know, even even shit like when they attempt to do it. There's one point where she keeps going to him, "You're coming in my mouth. You're coming." He's clearly not.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. Do you even know what this stuff is? You know. Like,
but that made me laugh as well. Actually, when he's going down and he pops up and goes, "What's all this white shit?"
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And even when they get close-ups, like when they get adventurous and they start going in for the close-ups,
which they only do that once or twice, and then they kind of go, "Oh yeah, we don't really want to do that. We'll go back to the wide."
Well, it's because there's no point, because she's as dry as fucking sandpaper. Like, I don't get what they're doing. Like,
well,
I don't
I'm not being
understand
funny.
it.
You get the bit. There's a long protracted bit where he's supposed to be fingering her, and they're arguing, and he's going between, I'll never cheat again, and I'll fuck anything that moves. Clearly, he won't, because no.
Yeah.
But they do sort of skirt around to a groin shot of her, and he might as well have his hand in a fucking pasty. there's no she's not responding at all, and he's literally it's like he's kneading fucking dough.
It really does feel like some sort of weird, surreal, Lynchian dream sequence, like you'd get in a better film. Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like, when that's going on, you almost kind of wanted to be laid back on the bed reading, Woman's Own or whatever in one hand and smoking a cigarette through one of those long fucking cigarette holders in the other. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you probably can't do that though because of the hair. The hairspray holding that hair in place would
really flammable.
Well, very fun. But you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, like, a dog flies past the window, or just really random shit. That's what it feels like. It's so fucking weird. And it's like, I know it's old and I know it's cheap and I know they've shot it on 16mm, and so, all right, they haven't really edited it because they've just spliced the film together and stuff, but it really does just feel like nobody gives a shit. It literally feels like they were all sat around the pub and went, what should we do tomorrow?
Porn?
I got a camera. Should we do a porn? Like, that's what it feels like.
The thing that I was really thrown by was that whole sequence where we've actually got Bat Pussy, which is meant to, this is what we're marketing the film on. This is Bat Pussy. And look, she's on her twat mobile. And then she sees the attack in the park and she goes up and she twats the guy with the space hopper until he falls down. Now, if we're going on narrative theory, we have been previously seeded by the magazine that he's reading with the girl-on-girl action very clearly depicted on the front. I was expecting a bit of girl-on-girl action, and instead she just gets back on her space hopper, waves goodbye, and goes. And I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, that was prime porn. Like,
it was.
But hang on, no, I do have an answer to this. But and obviously it's quite poor quality, the film, all right? So it is quite grainy when you're watching this. So I'm not sure, but looking at the way she was dressed and looking at the woman that she saves now, and looking at her hairdo as well, pretty sure it was probably the director's mum. Like, that definitely looks like an older lady.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
That really does look like a sweet old lady that's being mugged. So,
but so you've got that. But the other thing I thought with that, and it comes back to what I was talking about earlier on as well, about just like we've done ourselves now. You especially when you're shooting on film, you have to be brief because you don't have an endless supply. But the amount of time and the amount of blows she gets in with that fucking space hopper, when the guy's on the floor and not moving, it's like you've already killed him. He's already dead.
Yeah.
Leave the poor fucker alone.
But again, I don't think any of that is wasted, though, because I genuinely feel like the longer those sections go on, the funnier they are. Like, there's genuine comic timing at work there. They know exactly what they're doing with these Bat Pussy sections.
Yeah.
And that's what's even weirder, because they are genuinely brilliant, I think. The Bat Pussy things are hilarious.
Oh, they're really fun.
Yeah.
They are so funny.
But you have to wait 21 minutes before Bat Pussy turns up.
Yeah,
like, so you have 21 minutes of just watching this couple that hate each other fail to have sex.
Yeah, and then Bat Pussy only shows up for like 5, and then we're back to them again before she comes in at the end. So that's the weird thing to me, is they genuinely have something, I think, with the Bat Pussy of it all. They have something. Like, she's not bad. She's got presence. She's got some decent comic time. She can't deliver her lines, but whatever. It's a fucking porno. I don't care. So, and like you said, the sequences like her stopping at the stoplights and things like that, they're fucking hilarious. They're having a good time with that. Whereas when we're over with Buddy and Sam, nobody's having a good time. And you can feel it. That's the thing. You can feel that. That is coming through the screen. The level of they're so uncomfortable with each other. They know this isn't working. Everybody knows it's not working.
Yeah, you can hear the awkward shuffling off camera.
Yeah, and when it gets to the point where they just start laughing and breaking down, and you're just like, right, they've given up now.
Yeah,
like they've definitely given up. They don't care anymore. It's so fucking weird. And we've mentioned it, but we haven't really talked about it either. Like, it's funny, but why a space hopper? Where did that decision come from?
Because I think possibly that section was put in after the failure of the scene in that I think they shot the Buddy and Sam stuff first, and then they went back and put in the stuff with the space hopper because there wasn't anything hard for her to be bouncing up and down on the bed, so she needed to get bouncing up and down on something because it's her speciality.
Yeah, maybe you're right. And I suppose it's important to get some pelvic exercises in your line of work as well. So two birds with one stone, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, clearly she needs to improve her pelvic floor because she had to stop halfway through for a piss.
Which again we watched.
But Mark, this took place over 2 years. Remember?
Well, yeah, that's true.
2 year journey. You're going to need a piss stop at some point.
I know she's got a super bladder, but 2 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Especially if it's tingling all the way through.
But yeah, this whole thing is just like this trippy 60s music video, and I fucking love it. And then we cut back into Buddy and Sam again, and they start mixing it up. This is where we get the close-ups, and I'm like, oh, okay. This first reel, they just didn't know what they were doing. This is going to kick off now, but he doesn't. We just go back through the cycle again, and it's all the same stuff all over again. This is where he does decide he's going to try anal, and proceeds to push her on her side and slap his cock up against her inner thigh for some reason. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand what he thinks anal is, but it ain't that. And then he starts talking about fucking her nose and her ear. They mention both.
Yes.
Now, I've made those gags in the past. Yeah, I've made them on this show in the past. Never actually heard it uttered in context before.
That's
weird.
Yeah.
That's just weird, isn't it?
Not to kink shame.
No, not to kink shame. If you're into fucking noses, you do you. But I mean, if he can't get it in a fucking washing machine fanny, there's no chance he's getting it in her nose. Let's be honest. But the best he's going to do is pick her up like a bowling ball, I think.
Oh, God. Yeah. That was his technique.
Yeah. Like, they just have. It's at this point where I've gone through the journey of, like I said, when I was first watching it, I was like, is this real? Like, or are they being directed to do this? And are we going for something? And it's at this point when we cut back into them, I've just lost the plot. And I am literally like, no, these two people actually fucking hate each other. And they're actually pissed.
Yeah.
Like, we are full on watching a domestic happen. They just happen to be naked. And that gets, it's from here on out that I am really uncomfortable. I start to feel really uncomfortable at this point. And once we get to the end and he's fucking kicked Bat Pussy in the head, stormed out, like, I'm laughing about it now, but I turned it off and I was just like, that poor woman. Like,
but the thing that I did find with it is that she just kind of rolled with it. It's like, whatever he did, it was like, he sort of flung her down. He's got his legs around her neck and then flings her onto the floor to a point where I'm thinking, either that's an attempt at a Hurricane Rana while there's a dick in her mouth, or he just fell. But she was inches away from breaking her neck. So then all of a sudden he drags her back up into the bed, and she just goes along with it. She's like, oh, yeah, do me, eat it, whatever. And then he does it again where he drives her off the bed, and so she's there pivoted on the back of her neck, and you're thinking, that's going to fucking break in a minute.
There is a point once Bat Pussy shows up, and the three of them are on the bed. And I've made a note about this, and I did have to go back and check it before I said this on here, but I have checked it, and he actually punches Sam in the face. And he means it. He's not messing around. She's saying something while he's trying to penetrate Bat Pussy, and he just full on punches her in the face. And like I said, at this point, I'm horrified.
I didn't spot that. I didn't see that.
I didn't spot that.
He full on lays hands on her, and I had to go back and check it because I wrote it down, and then I was like, no, hang on, we can't joke about that. I need to go back and make sure he does. And he does. He full on punches her in the face. Look, I know they're drunk. I know they've been arguing, and I know, like, maybe people are into this, but that is not on. You don't
No.
Like, especially if you're working together, like just on that level alone, like it's unprofessional, right? But then
nothing about this is professional. But I get
no,
you.
but then when you this is supposed to be a married couple as well, that's just promoting sexual violence, and that is just not cool. And I know this is a porn, and if that was the thing, if it was billed as that, like I said earlier on, if he was choking her out and stuff, and this was all about that kind of kink, then that's what it is. It's contextual. But he just full on wallops someone in the face. It's absolutely gross. It is absolutely gross.
Well, the one that I caught that I was just like, what the fuck, and I couldn't believe that I heard what I heard, is she accuses him of fucking kids.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, we got the paedophilia in there as well. Like, let's just is
so the whole thing about you not fucking my kids. So hang on, they're his kids as well, aren't they?
Well,
where did that come from?
It's just after that point where they stop for a good minute or two to take direction as well, don't they? And they're both looking off camera. Yeah. And you do wonder, like, because you can't really hear the direction. You can just hear them calling back.
Yeah, but she's got this really uncomfortable grin on her face the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like this fake smile plastered on. It's like, whatever they say, just go along with it because we're getting paid.
But you do wonder as well whether that direction is like, look, can you fucking tone this down a bit,
dial
guys?
it back a bit.
Like, this is a bit fucking much now.
Yeah.
No? It could be. I don't know, because we don't know what that direction is. So it does get a bit. I've literally written in my notes, like, I'm drawing a line here. Like, he punches her in the face, and that's it. As soon as that happens, I'm just like, this has crossed the line now.
Yeah,
like I said, this is the journey it took me on. I've gone from finding it quite curious to finding it amusing to finding it tedious to just being like, no, this is fucking disgusting. Like, this is so exploitative. And let's not forget, there are at least 2 people in that room just watching this happen, because we've seen a boom and someone's holding a camera. Yeah. So there are at least 2 people at this point just watching a helpless woman being beaten up. Like, it's just fucking wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And in the terms of the narrative, not in terms of the actress here, like, at this point I started thinking, do you know what? I think I actually feel sorry for her. I think I'm on her side here.
Yeah,
because
I was on her side by the end of it. I was just like, do you know what, Sam? I take my hat off to you. Like,
completely.
Like, fair play, woman.
Yeah, like the shit she's putting up with, and then even like, all right, I know she doesn't know what she's doing, but when he starts taking up with,
she makes an effort though, because she's the one that gets in there with the right line. She's taking direction. She, there's got to be some sort of penetration at one point. So she slicks up the strap on and starts fucking herself with it. And so there we are. We do have a moment where there is actual, and it's down to her. And that was improvising. That was prop work. Well done.
Yeah, completely. And it's also to the point where, like, even in character as well, like, if you look at it then as like, well, Bat Pussy's shown up and her husband's now fucking Bat Pussy, which is literally, they've been arguing for the last 10 minutes about how he fucks his secretaries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's now happening right in front of her face. And instead of making a thing about it, she's just like, do you know what? Fuck you. There's a strap on here, so I'm just going to enjoy myself. I don't need you. Fuck you, pal. I'm just.
Well, let's be fair. She's going to enjoy the next however many minutes it is more than Bat Pussy anyway, because she's actually getting done.
Yeah, she's actually got something. Yeah, upper.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, whereas poor old Bat Pussy's just getting kneed in the face, slapped with a flaccid cock. Yeah, and that guy smells as well. I'm sorry, but he just looks like he smells, doesn't he? He looks like he doesn't shower. Like, he's greasy. That's a greasy man. Yeah, he's just not. And it's not that it's not an attractive smell either. He's not masculine. He just looks like he's greasy. He smells of chip grease and stuff. That's what he looks like. So yeah, I think she's got the better end of the bargain.
Yeah.
But at this point, then they fall off the bed. Bat Pussy gets kneed in the head, and as we've mentioned, she literally just gets up and she's just like, "Nah, fuck this."
Yeah, just get dressed and leave.
I'm fucking done.
Not straight after getting kneed in the head. Like, she does make an attempt to go back, because after she gets kneed in the head, she stands up, she drags him back on the bed and tries to take control of the proceedings before it's still not happening, and she just thinks, "Fuck that." Like, she rallies well.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, in terms of character, she's now realised that actually there's nothing going on. She has nothing to worry about. Her work is done. She can leave.
Yeah.
So she just gets back on her space hopper and fucks off into the night.
But maybe that's how she's going to come, because it's not from him.
Yeah.
Which is certainly not. No, I mean, she's probably going to go and just beat up more old fucking dudes mugging ladies and have a piss and go home and pleasure herself. Probably that's I guess. Well, would she though? Because the whole thing is she doesn't like people fucking in her holy Gotham City. So
no, she doesn't want them making a film. She doesn't want them making a fuck film.
Oh, okay. So they're allowed to fuck. They just can't make a film.
Well, this is the thing. This is what I was talking about earlier. There is some semblance of a narrative that they've kind of loosely gone, this is what's happening. Go and have sex. And so there's this whole thing that they're making porn in her city. They're making a fuck movie in my holy Gotham City. Dirty fuckers.
Yeah,
And
I mean
that
is
that's
literally
kind
the
of
line.
the premise.
Yeah.
That's the premise, is that she wants to stop them making porn. Presumably she's against it because it's immoral or something. Whereas breaking into somebody's home and having a three-way with a drunk couple, that's fine.
I don't know, like
Nice to know where the lines are.
Maybe her parents were killed because her dad had a heart attack while they were making a
job.
porno or something. Yeah, maybe that's Bat Pussy's thing. Maybe it's not guns, it's cameras. Or maybe she just doesn't like people doing pornos.
Maybe.
But yeah, she just stops. It gets up, puts her clothes on, the camera cuts, and I actually felt really disappointed that there was no resolution. I can't believe I felt like that. But I got to the end of the film and I was just like, I'm wholly unfulfilled by this on every possible level. Like, I don't know what happened with Buddy and Sam. I don't know what's happened with Bat Pussy.
Well, this is the thing. Like, from a story point of view, you're thinking, no, okay, there is no story, so I've just wasted 52 minutes. And from a voyeuristic point of view, you're thinking, that's not porn. There's no resolution, therefore I'm disappointed because A, it was shit, and B, I didn't get a nut. So what was the point? Why have I literally just wasted 52 minutes of my life?
Yeah, that is the best way to describe this film, isn't it? It is a waste of 52 minutes. You would think. But ever since I've watched it as well, like pretty much every day, I've been like, I don't know. I still don't know. Is it a work of art? Is it actually really clever?
This is I swear to God, James Franco is going to, like, he's done The Room. This is going to be next up. It's right up his alley. And to be honest, he is capable of coming up with utter trash, because that bloody film they made with Emma Watson in The Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. Like, I hadn't really thought about it until you mentioned it, whatever day it was, about whether it was genuine or not, whether it is a work. And it kind of got me thinking of Rubber. And when we did that, and don't get me wrong, if this is that, it's nowhere near as sophisticated, it's nowhere near as clever, it's nowhere near as thoughtful. But if you wanted to go out and do this and properly Blair Witch it, you build your legend around it, you build up this whole story of it being fake, and this whole story of it being lost, and you found it, and it gets sold for $1,000, and all this thing, they've gone through, they've restored it, there's bits missing, all this sort of stuff. You build your legend around that. Then you go into your wiki page and you say, right, we can build this up a bit. We can start talking. We can give people names, because nobody's going to check. None of the names in there, in the original part of the story, of the owner of the theatre, the name of the theatre, none of them have links. The people who work for Something Weird, they all have links, but then again, that's fine. You could set that up easily enough. So you think, if you were going to do it, that's where you set your stall. You sell the story to a couple of adult magazines who would eat this story up for breakfast, this found footage. Then you say, right, we'll get it online. We can get it online easy. And you can put stuff on. We put videos online every week. It's easy. You can do that. We can set up a website to do it. If we can blag our way in front of these people and say, look, this is genuine. We can go to the genre film archive and say, look, this is genuine. This is a found footage film. And we're going to do our damnedest to make sure people see it, because it's a work of art. We believe it's the first parody, all this sort of stuff. If you can build that legend and get it to take off, you can get people to buy into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not even on, like, that is one level. Yeah. There's also the other level of if this was just some guys making a porno. Again, it's like, it's either exploitative trash because they've picked these people up in a pub and just gone fuck each other.
Yeah, drink a lot and fuck each other.
As we say all the time on this show, it's directed, and with his choice, there's meaning. And look, I'm not excusing it. They're obviously disgusting human beings if this is what they wanted to make, but they fucking made it, and they elicited the correct response out of me. They were like, we're going to make the most disgusting thing possible, and we're going to make our audience feel like trash.
Yeah.
And they did that to me. That is the journey I went on. I went from, haha, look at this, isn't it funny? To, oh my God, this is absolutely horrendous. And that takes some doing.
Like, it does. I mean, this is probably the most uncomfortable I've ever felt watching a film.
I would agree. I would definitely agree.
Like, no, this is the cinematic equivalent of being fucked in the backseat of a Volkswagen. No, there's nothing comfortable about it. You are there watching these people, and they either despise each other, as you said, and they're being exploited because they're drunk, or this is designed to get a response, which it's going to get. Either way, I don't really want to be involved in that. That's not a process I want to be part of. So I'm sitting there and said, I watched this Sunday morning, and despite the fact the house was empty, Tori and the kids were away for the weekend, which makes it slightly seedy again, even though I was watching it like 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning.
No. I think it's more seedy if the kids are at home.
Well,
I
if
think
I'm watching
you did the right thing.
If I'm watching stuff at midnight, they should be in bed anyway. But yeah, so there's this whole thing. But I thought, even though there's nobody home, similar situation to yourself, I thought, I don't really want neighbors hearing what I'm watching. I don't know. The window's open. I thought, no, I can't do that. So I'm sat there with my headphones on, even though it's not disturbing anybody. And I'm just sitting there going, what am I doing? This just feels wrong.
Right, it's worse because you're wearing headphones, right? Because I had that discussion with myself as well, and I was like, shall I put some headphones on? And then I'm like, no, because if I do that, that's complete immersion. I'm adding an extra level of intimacy between myself and this film. And moreover, if someone were to walk in, I probably wouldn't hear it. So I wouldn't be able to stop it.
The only thing that would make it worse, I had this discussion with somebody a couple of weeks ago on a training session I did. If this was a VR issue.
Oh my God.
Because I was on a training course, but we're doing some training videos in work around sort of being on sites and being around plant and things like that. And when we were talking about the stuff we had coming up, the trainer asked if anybody had any experience using VR headsets, thinking people would be talking about gaming. And one of the shovel monkeys just started pissing himself because he's a big fan of 3D VR porn.
Is that a thing?
Apparently so. And apparently, and the woman who was making the video for us was saying that apparently the two biggest drivers in entertainment technology are gaming and porn.
I believe that.
You go all the way back to the very first podcast we ever did, and I distinctly remember you laughing your ass off because I told you that is what drives all technological advancement for man. It is two questions.
How does it feed me? How do I fuck it?
Exactly that. That is my stance on it. How does it feed me? How do I fuck it? That is every piece of technology that has ever been invented has started with those two key questions.
Yeah,
there is no doubt about it.
That's absolutely right. And I remember talking to a friend, a mutual friend of ours years ago, about the concept of 3D porn. And if you take it forward now to what like we've got like Cineworld doing like the 4D showings, that would be really uncomfortable walking out of a cinema.
No, I don't want. No.
That's the next step, isn't it?
I mean,
I had this conversation in 2011, but like, so again.
Go to a live sex show at that point. These things are available if you want them. You don't need to. I guess you can't do that in the comfort of your own home, though, can you?
No. I suppose the thing is, would you have like the signs in SeaWorld so in the front 5 rows will get wet?
Oh, you know that. Okay.
Yeah,
so
say it.
Yeah, I was going to say. So one of my favorite anecdotes that somebody ever told me on a film set was I was huddled up in a little green screen tent, like cueing explosions for a special effects sequence, and I was right next to the Sparky whose job was doing it, and he was telling me that when he's not working for the BBC, he works for Pumpkin Films over in Bristol, who are a porn company, and the favourite way to haze new people on set is they don't put them behind the protective screens that everybody else on the crew is behind.
My God. Oh, Jesus.
We may have to bleep out the name of the company for that.
No. We don't do edits on this show.
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Hell no.
We've said far worse. It's fine.
And just for the record, I'm sure whatever Pumpkin Films put out is 110% better.
Oh yeah, he loved working for them. He had a great experience.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's that as well. As I said right back at the start, we kind of got to meet this on its level. And like, I think even for the time, this is flying like well substandard of what porn would be. Like, there is no, like, look, I'm sure porn was like the Wild West in these days, but even by that standards, this is just like, no one's been tested. No one's done, they haven't showered first. They're just disgusting people. everything about this is grotty and
But I think the
disgusting.
thing
It
is
makes
as
me
well, I
feel
It's
dirty.
proper grim.
It is
And I
grim.
thought I knew what grim was because I was friends with a guy from Ponty who once told me about how
You don't need to carry on. That's friends with a body, that'll do.
yeah, there was cans of Stella involved and then a friend unknowingly drinking them. I was like,
That's just Spunky Biscuit, but with Stella, isn't it?
no,
That's
not
a
with
night
how they
out
were,
in Ponty.
not with how they were used. Not with how they were used, Chris.
Oh, okay.
Like
I don't want to know.
No, you don't probably.
No. But yeah, the thing with this as well is that, I mean, you used to have like dirty picture books and smut books, but even then, like,
Hang on. I've got to call you on that. Did you just call them dirty picture books?
yeah, I could, yeah, I did. So you used
Jesus Christ, old man.
youngest one here.
Not if you're going to call them dirty picture books, you're not.
But referencing how they were referred to in like the 50s and 60s, that's no. So you had that type of material. You didn't have video. No, video wasn't that widely available.
You mean you didn't have the talking pictures?
Not in your home, no. So you there wasn't video. Well, video wasn't that widely available commercially. So
I've thrown you now, haven't I? Because I'm taking a piss out of you calling them dirty
There's an
picture
entire
books.
train of thought that's fucking gone. But no, so the fact that they are doing this on video, that this is as well as being an early parody, this would have been relatively early in terms of motion pictures. Anyway, in terms of motion porn, you generally would have been photos
They were doing it in the 1920s.
No, fuck no. Do you honestly believe the first thing people do? Yeah,
the 1920s. That was like peak porn production because it was before the Hays Code came in. That was all they were doing. It was the reason for the Hays Code.
How does it feed me? How do I fuck it? The second somebody realized you could make moving pictures, I guarantee you they shot someone fucking. All of this shit about all of Buster Keaton and like all the Million Brothers, all of this shit, right? Doesn't matter. The first thing people ever did, I guarantee you, shoot two people fucking, or at the very least two animals fucking. Like there's just no way they didn't. Same with the invention of the camera. The first thing people photographed was a dick. You just know it was. Like
that's so true. Yeah. What I'm saying is the widespread availability was it was becoming a thing. So you were moving into this point where people did have access. More people had access to cameras because they were becoming cheaper. They became more available. People now had video cameras because they were becoming more available. So from that sense, there wasn't the widespread availability to do stuff like this. So all of a sudden you're like, right, okay, we can do this and we can get it out there. And that so you went from you went into having this entire sub industry where it's like, okay, we can now go, as you say, we can go back to doing what was being done before because we're in the 60s, early 70s, and now you can do what you fucking like again because we've had the post-war bit where we've had all the conservatism, and we've bypassed the whole communist thing, and that's kind of died to death now. We've done the space race, and yeah, great. Now we can go back to flaccid penises on screen. So it's one of those that the whole the fact that it did evolve so they have evolved so much. So you have this parody where it's like, oh, what's everybody doing? I have no fucking clue what's going on. Even the people on screen are going, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And it's just completely bananas.
That is the best description. It is absolutely fucking bonkers, this film. The whole thing feels like somebody just took a bad trip and went, do you know what would be really funny? Like, I've got a camera. Let's just make... And that's what it feels like. It feels like just these people were all just sat around and they were just like, yeah, we can do this. And again, there's a little part of me, for as disgusting as this is, there's a little part of me then that goes, yeah, go on. You've got a camera. You've got a crew. That's all you need. You made it. You got it on film. It got into a theater, at least one theater we know, because that's where it was found. So, like, go on. That's guerrilla filmmaking. Good on you. Fair play. And then you watch it and you're just like, yeah, but by the same token, you probably could have filmed yourself shooting someone and it would be guerrilla filmmaking. It doesn't mean you should. This is just gross and exploitative and wrong. But I was only half joking at the start where I said, like, this is of cultural importance, really. This is, as far as we know, the first porn parody. It's certainly an example of the kind of shit that was getting into porn theaters these days. And I think there's genuine value to be taken from it as well in terms of, and I mean it, there is genuine value to be taken in terms of performance, in terms of the whole process. Yes, it's how you don't do it, but you can definitely see improv at work with these.
But a lesson in what you don't do is just as valuable as what you do.
Exactly.
True.
Yeah, you can see the process working, and you can learn from it if you want to. I think you can see they've got the basics right. They've got the mechanics of improv right. They're just shit at it.
They haven't got the mechanics of sex right.
Awful.
The mechanics weren't working for me, Chris.
What,
I don't think the mechanics are working for anyone.
No, they not the mechanics of that performance, but in terms of them building that narrative, as you say, the way it escalates from, oh, I hate you, you don't know how to fuck, to you're always fucking your secretary, to you're always blowing people in the alley, to we've got 2 kids, to we've been married 11 years, to it just builds and builds and builds, and they're bouncing off each other. And there was no script, they had nothing to work off there. I don't think the director gave them any notes for any of that. He just went, go for it.
Yeah.
And I think part of it as well is them realizing that it's not working, that they can't do it. Yeah. And they're panicking. So they're just like, right, hang on, we need to fill screen time now. They're filming us. We can't just lie here.
Yeah.
We clearly can't fuck.
But then,
so what do we do?
But then this comes down to the issue of when you get into the edit suite, and the fact is you can talk about directorial choice as much as you want, but editing choice is just as interesting. And it's the fact that where they've chosen to edit out the direction that's being called to the actors versus where they leave it in, and just how long they leave the camera rolling, and the percentage of the film that's devoted to this married couple versus the percentage that's devoted to Bat Pussy. And it's and just how much they just kept the cameras rolling, when as opposed to just calling a break, letting everyone go off for 15 minutes, do what they needed to do to get into a better headspace, and sort of going back in. And with the film that they'd saved, they could then have had more stuff with actual Bat Pussy, which must have been the concept, because even if the Sam and Buddy stuff was filmed first on, they've got Bat Pussy and they've got the costume.
Yeah.
So why the fuck weren't they using it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Other than somebody must want to see this. Somebody wants to see Sam and Buddy. They've made that choice.
Yeah. Somebody's gone to the trouble of making it. There's obviously a perceived audience for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the bit that blows my fucking mind. That's where it interests me, right? Somebody thought this was good. And that's at the core of every film that we do on here, right? Even the stuff that's so bad it's good. Even the stuff that we know is bad, that's blatantly bad. Somebody thought it was good. Somebody thought it had value. Even if that value is just entertainment value, otherwise they wouldn't make it. And so somebody genuinely thinks that Sam and Buddy's story has value and is interesting.
And I'm sure it does have value and is interesting. We just weren't fucking told it.
No, at all.
Because it's literally, if your thing is having a domestic, and a really nasty one at that, not even a funny one, it's a really nasty one. If that's your fetish, because I admit I don't really watch porn, because I just find that I get really irritated with, I don't like the lighting, I don't like the set, I don't like the actors, I don't like the camera, I don't like the choices of editing, and I just start deconstructing it, and it's just, that's the least sexy thing ever. So I just go for the books. But that did mean that I read the 50 Shades of Grey book, and I was utterly appalled. I was shocked. I was told, I knew it was based on Twilight, and I knew it was basically Twilight fan fiction, which gave me unrealistic expectations, because most fan fiction that I know of is just absolute filth and fantastic for it. But this, there's a scene where he pulls out the tampon, and I suppose that could have vaguely worked if he's a vampire, but it doesn't work in the context of the book. And I was just that's not sexy. Off it goes. And then it's the fact that the book is padded out multiple times with the huge fucking contract, which isn't sexy either. Unless, not kink shaming, if you get off from the terms and conditions of your Apple iPhone, then do you know what? 50 Shades of Grey will probably do it for you. But
to be
just
fair,
no.
There are however many hundreds of millions of iPhones have been sold. No fucker has ever read the terms and conditions.
Somebody out there does, and they really fucking enjoy it, Mark. They really fucking enjoy it.
And I bet they correct them as well.
Oh yeah. Send
Damn
it
it, you're
back
not
with
supposed to tell
annotations.
people about that.
But they have to take a moment, get themselves their special cup of tea.
Yep.
So they can have a moment, and then they sit through, they open up the document, they get their special highlighter pen out as well to highlight all the sections that they want to contest.
Well, it's the same with most things now. It's not just Apple that do it, but you actually have to go to the bottom of the fucking thing to click accept before they let you carry on. So who
to prove
cares?
that you've read it.
I've already bought it. I don't care. I've already spent however many fucking hundreds of pounds or whatever it is to buy the damn thing. I want to use the fucking thing now. I don't want to read the bastard terms and conditions.
Now, in fairness, though, those people that do get off on reading the terms and conditions and that go through and highlight them and have this special cup of tea, they're still having more fun than anybody watching Bat Pussy, to be
Yes.
fair, because that's still more erotic than this fucking film is, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had an experience a number of years ago where number one was born and Tori nearly bled to death. And I had to watch her have a blood transfusion and watch while a little team of doctors and nurses tried to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. This was still more fucking traumatic.
Yeah. It's one of the worst experiences I have ever had in my life, and I mean that. Like, I genuinely can't think of many things I've enjoyed less and I've had to think about this carefully because, as I say, I went back and forth as to whether I actually thought this had value or not. I've decided it doesn't. But now and again, that argument still crops up in my head. But there are very few things that I think I've enjoyed less than Bat Pussy. This isn't just one of the worst films I've ever seen. It's one of the worst examples of porn I've ever seen. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen on the internet. It's just one of the worst things ever of anything. Like, it just needs to be destroyed.
It's almost as bad as Sunless, which I don't know why people say it's one of the greatest documentaries ever made. It's worse than Bat Pussy. But Bat Pussy is pushing Sunless levels of excruciating. Just why am I watching this?
Yeah, I mean, I never thought I'd see the day where we got something on this show that was worse or more offensive or more disgusting to me than 365 Days.
Yeah, but nobody spat in this.
I mean, that probably would have improved it, if I'm honest, because at least somebody would have done something.
Well, yeah.
This is just the worst thing I have ever seen.
It comes to something when that's how low the bar is.
I kind of think we've broken the show now because I don't think we can get anything worse than this. However, we're able to set it aside into its own little genre because we don't normally do porn. Yeah. So I feel like at least we can set it aside on its own thing and just be like,
never again.
But yeah, that's it. And there's a reason we don't do porn because, let's be fair, it's like shooting fish in a fucking barrel. And, this is that. Like, it's just the worst. It's the worst anything ever. That's the best compliment I can pay it. It really is.
And this in the week where Russia invaded Ukraine.
I mean, it's not worse than that, to be fair.
I don't know. I'm pretty in terms of humanitarian disasters and war crimes. This is right up there.
No, I don't think it's worse than invading Ukraine. I do think maybe if you could sit Putin down and show him this, he'd seriously rethink his life.
I don't know. I think that might make him go for the nukes, to be perfectly honest. Because, I know that he's been saying that he wants to do it, but I personally have of the opinion that he's bluffing. But I think if you showed him Bat Pussy, we'd all be like living in Fallout.
Yeah. I mean, at least Bat Pussy would be destroyed, I guess. So there's that.
No, it would survive like the cockroach that
I think it would, wouldn't it? Like, can you imagine in a nuclear wasteland, you just know this is the one document that people are going to find. This is the one historical document. They'll find a reel of this and our whole culture will be based.
1,000 years later, once humanity is rebuilt, it's not the Bible that has survived, it's Bat Pussy.
Bat Pussy, yeah. And everybody's riding around on space hoppers.
So that I can get on board with.
Well, the space hoppers, I mean, I don't know, the space hoppers, like, I never got them even as a kid. Like, they're just not fun. Like, they're just squishy. I don't understand. Like,
they're fun to fight in with.
Well, yeah, you can hit people with them, I guess, but I never had any brothers or sisters, did I? So what was I going to do? Slap myself in the face? Like, there's no fun in space hoppers.
No, we're not here to kink shame, Chris.
Oh,
yeah, I've never got space hoppers. They entirely.
I never had one, so I don't really know.
I had one. It was just pointless. They're almost as pointless as those things which were just like a football with like a circle around it.
Yeah.
Stand on and hop. Like, they're more pointless than a space hopper, but only just.
Yeah, now my brother had one of those, but again, I was a fat and relatively clumsy child. There was no fucking way I was going on one of those.
So would I, but I just saw that as padding if I fell off, so it was fine. Plus, I couldn't ride a bike because I was too fat, so I had to try everything else, didn't I? I ended up with a go-kart, which it's not cool. It's not as cool as it sounds, right? When everyone else is on bikes and you want to go-kart, you look like a right fucking...
Also, it's a lot harder to keep up.
Well, no, the go-kart went pretty fast, to be fair, especially when people were pushing it because they thought it was funny, but, you know. That's what you get for having a go-kart as a kid, innit? This took a turn.
I think we need to explore Chris's childhood a bit more.
No, we don't. Thanks.
Yeah, oh, fucking hell.
Well,
I wasn't expecting this to get so deeply personal.
Well, you know, we can't just
fine,
talk about Bat
it's
Pussy
fine.
because that would be ridiculous.
Being abused on a go-kart, still more fun than watching Bat Pussy.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Like I genuinely can't think of many things more painful than watching this fucking. I never ever want to see this again, ever.
It adds weight to the argument actually about which hurts more, getting kicked in the nuts or giving birth. I think this beats both.
I think it definitely does, and I think normally at this point we would sort of get at the point of wrapping up, and we'd be saying to listeners, it's available here if you want to go and watch it if you haven't seen it. Like, just don't do it. Don't. Like
we posted a link to the trailer, and that should be enough to show you what you don't want to see.
I mean, if you've listened to us for the last hour and a half and you think it sounds funny,
it's not.
It's not.
No,
it's not.
It's really not. The 2 minutes you get with Bat Pussy when she's traveling, that's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny for up until that point. I think when it first starts, it's funny because you can't believe what you're seeing, and the Bat Pussy stuff is genuinely funny. But then it takes such a drastic turn so quickly, and it becomes so tonally different immediately, and it's just vulgar, offensive, disgusting. It is downright disgusting. It's horrid. Imagine you found a 16mm film of your parents fucking. That's this. That's what this is. Yeah, and it's every bit as bad as you imagine.
The thing with that analogy is flawed, because as much as I would hate to see that, I would hate even more having to watch 50 minutes of my parents going on about how much they hate each other and how they fuck other people.
Oh yeah. No, not that. I just mean in terms of the aesthetic of it.
And they're unhappily drinking themselves solely to death, and dad's just constantly complaining about the amount of money he has to pay in child support, whereas mum's never around and just constantly reeks of gin. You'd have to have that would have to be your parents for this to be your parents. Yeah. I'm not talking about narratively. I'm just talking about the actual aesthetic of the thing. Like if you're thinking, oh, it's a porn film, no, it's not, because it is literally two over the hill middle-aged people trying to fuck, and they have no idea what they're doing. Yeah, and it's horribly uncomfortable.
It's really painful.
I thought the worst thing that I knew about sort of sex lives of the older generation had come from when my friend, who is 76 and has a more active sex life than pretty much anyone I know, was telling me about her discoveries of online dating when you're in the sort of the over 70s market. And there is a whole subsect of men whose wives have passed away and they're now looking for a companion. And just so that you, the prospective new wife or partner, knows that this isn't an affair and they're not cheating, their profile pic is either a pic of the dead wife's grave or the urn on the mantelpiece.
Jesus fucking
hell.
I mean, I thought that was the unsexiest thing that I knew of, because I remember laughing my tits off with Sheila about this and just sort of saying, Jesus Christ, that's their pickup. And she was just like, I know, what the fuck? But this is worse than that.
Who says romance is dead?
That was almost sweet until you ended it. That was... I was kind of thinking, where's she going with this? Because this actually sounds quite sweet. I don't mind it. No,
not sweet at all.
No, not at all.
No.
So yeah, that's the levels you're plumbing if you're going to decide to watch this. However, please do sign up for Arrow and watch all the other great stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
But do not under any circumstance, not even out of curiosity,
not even ironically,
and not even to look for some sort of cultural value, which is I think it's in there. I think if you do want to look at this academically, you probably can, but just don't do it to yourself. Use that 50 minutes more constructively.
Watch Hellraiser first and take away the lessons that Hellraiser teaches you about sometimes there's some things that you just don't open and you just don't touch. You just leave well alone.
Yeah. And if you are looking to use that 52 minutes more productively, get a cheese grater and drag it along your forehead.
That's, again,
that would be more entertaining.
Probably more erotic as well. So
visually more pleasant.
Yeah, definitely.
And you have an interesting story to tell at the end of it.
Everyone's a winner, you see.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of, I think we've kind of covered this. But Chris, is it better than Mario?
No, it's the worst ever. Anything. It's horrible. Horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. I never ever want to see it again. I want it burned.
Fair enough.
And I may have to burn my eyes as well.
Yeah.
Well, mine have only just stopped bleeding, so you know.
Yeah.
Helen?
No, I mean, I'm with Chris. It's the second worst film ever made.
Yeah, see, I loved it. No, I'm joking. Yeah, no, I'm the same. It's the least appealing thing I've ever watched on so many levels. And there were bits I did enjoy. I did think that the comedy sections with Bat Pussy were actually genuinely good. I just hate myself for even thinking the 2 minutes of it were entertaining, because fuck me, that's horrible.
Yeah. Never again.
Also, need to stress this as well, because if you're listening to this and you're still thinking, oh yeah, but it's not that bad. It's not just that it's bad, it's fucking boring.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing, isn't it?
Well,
everything we've said, at least if it was entertaining. Like, I don't think I can get past the fact that he physically punches her in the face. I don't think I can get past the fact that their language to each other is repulsive and I feel awkward watching it. I can't get past any of that. But if it was entertaining and it actually had a story and some pace and they sounded like they were enjoying it, I could meet it on that level. But I can't. So as I say, it just leaves me thinking that it's this kind of curio, and it's one that I just don't want. I don't want to investigate it any further. I just feel wrong for watching it in the first place, let alone taking a deep dive. So
yeah.
Never.
As I say, we've been at it for an hour and a half, which is an hour and a half more than they were.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel I should give up my film choosing privileges for a while.
I think you're banned for a while.
Just so you know, I'm serious. I'm going to make you read the absolute worst, trashiest porno book that I have managed to successfully source on the internet, because I can't believe you made me sit through this.
Yeah, I mean,
made is a strong word.
That seems fair.
Yeah, that does seem fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's Bat Pussy for you in a nutshell, and we really mean it. We can't stress this enough. I know it's about the fourth time we said it, but please, just this once, listen to us and do not do this to yourself.
Watch anything else at all, and say Arrow Video is a great platform. They've got some great stuff on there. Just not this.
Yeah, watch the trailer if you must, and realize that it's not done ironically. Okay, that trailer is 100% what you are going to watch.
Yes.
Like when
that trailer is a minute and a half of the best of what you're going to watch, and it's telling that they could only get a minute and a half of stuff that was actually.
That's a minute and a half better than Buddy.
It certainly is. Certainly is.
Poor Sam.
Yeah, I felt really bad for Sam. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
I felt for her. I'd totally be just like, love, let's just go.
Just call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, as always, if you have seen it and if you are going to ignore us and watch it anyway, please let us know what you think. I'm not taking any responsibility. We've told you not to watch it, so if you do, it's on your head. But if you do, then let us know what you thought, because that would
please do. Yeah, if you are daft enough to watch it after all this, or if you've seen it already, then let us know. Like, let us know.
Or if you know anything about the backstory of it, because as I said, we've kind of picked at what we've found, but there's got to be more to it.
As much as I never ever watch this again, I feel like I'm going to talk about it a lot. So, if you've got anything to say about it, then by all means get in touch. And on that note, next up for us, if you've watched it or if you want to watch it prior to us watching it and get involved, we are going to look at Beaster Bunny next, which is available to everybody on Amazon Prime. So Easter special next time.
Yeah,
we'll put Bat Pussy to bed and we will move on to something that I'm sure is going to be far less offensive.
Yeah,
unless you're a Christian, but who gives a fuck about them, eh?
But yeah, as always, get in touch. Let us know your thoughts. Just if you are going to play along with Beaster Bunny next month, get in touch with us. Let us know what you think of that as well, so we can shout you out in the show. But I've completely forgotten where I'm going with that.
I mean, that's the effect this film has on you, dude.
As I say, everything inside my head has just melted. Like, you know, my brain, my fillings, everything. There's just nothing left.
I think you were about to do the socials.
Yes, I was. I can never fucking remember those anyway. Yes, so if you'd like to get in touch, you can do so on Twitter at ddpodcastnet. You can go to our website, ddpodcast.net, where you can also pick up our other shows and the previous episodes of this show. Wherever you get your podcasts from, like, share, subscribe, leave us a message. We'll get back to you as best we can. Until next time.
See you later.
Yeah.